Uh, Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's webinar, AI and Hospitality, what we learned from a billion plus messages. My name is Gavin Wadsworth. I'm with the marketing team here at ResNexus, and I'm pleased to see you all joining us for the webinar today. Joining us today is Jose Zapata, Sales Manager at AskSuite, who will present for us, and then will provide us with a demo of their product. And then we'll have time at the end set aside for a Q&A, so you can put your questions down there for the end. All right, and with all that being said, I'll go ahead and pass it over to Jose. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me and giving us a chance to introduce this subject to what I hope is going to be a pretty much full room from what we were seeing from the participation slide. Right, so again, thank you so much for joining us. Just a very brief introduction about who am I and what AskSuite is in case you have never heard of us before. The company was originally founded in Brazil in 2018, though by now we're very much everywhere in the world. I myself am based in London, and though I am Spanish, that's one of those quirks about the business, I guess. And despite having to have the pandemic in the middle and having a bit of a blip of time in there, we've grown pretty nicely. We already have like more than 3,500 customers all over the world. And there's been more than, and my CEO is very excited about this, and he should. We've exchanged more than 1 billion messages in our chat system between reservation and revenue agents in these last 6 years. And we've gathered a fair bit of information in this time. One thing that I think is worth mentioning is that we predate the whole AI hype that started last year with the advent of the public version of ChatGPT and whatnot. Of course, we have benefits from all of that, and we have integrated some modern technology in our system, but we've been going about this for a while, so we have a birth of knowledge in the sector that thankfully for us, I guess, not many people have. And some of these statistics might actually surprise you. And I know that many customers I speak with are fairly surprised about it because it's not kind of goes against our expectations in many ways. The first one, and you can find all of this in the report. We'll have a link to the report in the end of the presentation. You'll be able to download it and read it in full, but just as an appetizer. We found out that on websites and basically hotels and hospitality providers that have installed our bot in their websites and other messaging platforms, we've seen that there are like 70% of interactions with the website happen through the chatbot. Like it literally has that magnetic effect, and it attracts a lot of attention and a lot of traffic through it. Because I do find myself with the usual counter argument to myself saying it's like, oh, well, if someone has come to the website already, then what do I need a chatbot for? They surely will just find the information they want on the website or just book directly through it. You would think that, but no, curiously enough. And of those chats that happen through the website and different messaging services, we found out that almost half of them are revenue related, basically people asking for price quotes. Again, doesn't really follow traditional logic. You would think that people just going into the website, well, they'd be predisposed, just go into the booking engine and get a quote. Not so much. I myself do not quite know. I've studied psychology, and even then I can tell you that I'm at a loss of exactly why people behave like this, but they do. And that is something that you have to be ready to capitalize, especially in the modern market, and especially considering how hospitality has been pretty tough for us, especially with COVID, even though we're coming back from the dead, so to speak, for a couple of years now.
If I could interrupt you for just one moment, Jose. I think people are having a little bit of a hard time hearing you. Do you think you'd be able to either speak up a little bit or increase your volume somehow?
Let me double check.
I don't want to interrupt you too much, but I can hear you relatively fine, but I just want to make sure that our audience is able to hear you.
This is probably one of the very first times this has happened to me, because normally I have the opposite time, because this is my normal voice. So
there you go.
I tend to the people tend to ask me to please lower my volume, not rise it. So pretty happy to just keep my voice up from this time on.
All right, fantastic. Thank you.
But yeah, if people are still having trouble hearing me like this, I'll be, we'll find out some way of upgrading the volume in Zoom or something. I myself cannot seem to see a way to find the volume. Let me see if I can actually upgrade the volume out.
You go ahead and continue, and I'll see if I can find a solution.
Yes, thank you. I think my input volume is to the maximum actually, so I don't think I can actually raise it any higher. But
Okay,
I'll continue and if
that's right.
necessary. I mean,
Thank
we're
you.
recording the conversation, so hopefully that will help. Anyhow, slightly more on track. Yeah, so surprisingly, 45 conversations that happen through the chat tend to be revenue related. People asking for quotes. People just seem to prefer asking for a quote rather than actually inputting the details themselves on a booking engine, whether it is with a bot or not. Why? I don't know, but it happens, and it's something that, of course, we need to take advantage of and act on it. Inevitably, the other half of the question is like, well, I mean, if 40%, 45% of the questions are revenue related, what happens with the rest of them? Most of them actually tend to be the kinds of things that, quite frankly, should be automated. And the promise of AI and language models such as this, where that, they were going to take tedious work away from us. And I feel that a lot of AI providers out there and many companies in this industry kind of have missed the wood of the tree for the trees, and they are focusing too much on making it do things that was never designed or intended to do. But this, taking care of queries and freeing time from your staff from those kinds of questions that, quite frankly, if the customer had a minimum degree of motivation, they would just be able to find on the website. Checking times. Where is the parking? How do I get to the property? Can you recommend me a taxi service? How do I book in the restaurant? All of that stuff that a bot can handle perfectly fine. Whether it is by pre-arranged questions or whether it is by using a language model like ours, or both. Which again, you should usually use as many tools as you can do without cluttering your website or other services. Another factor of importance is that we've noticed that many of the conversations that we get and the interactions we're getting on the websites where we have our chatbots happen outside traditional business hours. Sure, many hospitality properties have 24 hours, reservation staff or reception staff, but at the end of the day, those tend to, in most properties, those shifts, even if you have them, tend to be limited. So if you suddenly have a big influx of potential customers or of people with, needs and questions, you have potentially no one to answer them. And that's going to be an angry customer or maybe not an angry customer, but definitely a frustrated customer that humans are petty. And if you don't get your answers answered in the first try, very often people don't try again. So obviously we want to avoid that. And by having, again, a live chatbot in the website that can, is automated enough to deal with those queries and deal with potential reservation questions, boom, you are plugging another hole by which you potentially could have lost a customer than now you've gotten. This one is probably less interesting for our friends in the US because my understanding is that WhatsApp is not as thoroughly used in the US as is used in South America and in Europe. That said, even though not all of our customers use WhatsApp, it's an optional connection in our tool, we still find that around 23% of all connections through our chatbot go through WhatsApp. So it is an extremely popular application with travelers. Again, might not be true for all territories. What I hear from my contacts in the US and my colleagues in the US is that SMSs tend to be preferred there rather than WhatsApp. Notwithstanding, it's something to look up into, especially if you have a lot of potential customers that come from either Latin America or Europe. It is a platform that they're going to be using. They're going to be looking forward to in communications. And now, before I jump into the demo itself, which I think is going to be the meat and potatoes of this of this presentation, or at least I hope so, just 3 trends that we're noticing across the industry, and I think they are very much what we should aim for with a platform such as this. Is first of all, no matter what some very future-looking people right now in the business are saying, AI is impressive. Modern language models are incredibly powerful, but the computational costs of AI and the amount of data they require to function probably is going to keep them being a niche for most things, at least for the foreseeable future. There's going to be uses, there's going to be very powerful uses, but you have to really, really tailor-make your solution for a particular industry. thankfully, we and a bunch of other companies, of course, I cannot really put that crown only on our heads, mind if I want, even as much as I want to, is that the most effective approach is looking for ways in which these models can support your stuff in a way that is reproducible and in a way that is effective and that produces satisfaction both in the customer and in the staff that is using it. As I say, in our case, we have tailor-made our model and our bot for this purpose. It works on a principle of reliability, and I will show you in a minute how it does that. And is in no means thought of as a potential replacement for human staff. Of course, if you have training for staff at the moment, because it's something that's happening across the whole industry, hospitality is really struggling to find staff, it will support you and it will give the staff you have additional time free to do other things. But at the same time, the purpose is for this, for the AI to support the humans in the industry, not to replace them outright. And it potentially couldn't do that at this stage anyway. We'll see in a few years, but as it is right now, it's not the case. The second thing is that people like talking. It's what I was saying before. I don't know exactly why this happens, but it definitely happens. People much prefer conversing with a chatbot than actually meandering on a website and trying to find the information themselves, or even do a booking themselves. I know for many of us, this is shocking. I, for example, if you had asked me this, I would have said no, of course not. Like I would much rather prefer find that information in the website itself rather than the chatbot, but I've been proven wrong by the data in multiple occasions. So it's what it is, and it is the world in where we're moving in, and we have to be ready for it. And finally, and this is an opening like that is happening not just with AI and not just with bots, but it is a nice niche that we also cover and that many other platforms are also trying to cover, is that this becoming the preference for omni-channel platforms. Our bot, for example, connects to the website, Instagram, Google, Facebook, potentially WhatsApp, as I was saying. We're looking into other potential connections. And the benefit of this is that you're getting all of those messagings, all of those conversations that the customers are having, as in point 2, in a single dashboard. So it's much easier to action on it, extract valuable information and data from it, and turn it into additional business and to additional revenue. Also, again, because of how people are, if someone, for example, contacts your property through Facebook, and they ask a question, and then they contact your property the next time by Instagram, just because they see you through Instagram and is where they are at the moment. If they contact you again, they're probably going to expect that you know who they are, even if technically, which is not probably reasonable to recognize two different accounts as the same one. But through tools like ours, it can actually do that, just as long as there's some recognizable information between the two. So it allows you to combine multiple messaging platforms in one, make things simpler, make simpler for you, for the customer, and potentially, again, give you another revenue channel. Gavin and I will give you a time to take a picture of this if you want to download the report from here. And we will also send you the slides, of course. But, in a minute, we will move into the demo, where I will show you live, what it actually looks like, what I've been talking about, and some features of it, so you may compare for the future whether it is with our own service or other providers. Though I would very much like for you to go with us, and I think we'll give you the best options. But of course, you need to make that own decision for yourselves. Gavin, all good for us to move into the demo?
Yeah, by all means.
Excellent. I'll close this down. As I say, we will send you this presentation later, so no problem. Right, so for the demo today, I am going to show you how 3 of our customers use the bot. The customers that I'm showing today is the Europe, which is an hotel in Ireland. It's a spa hotel in the countryside by the sea, kind of the nice place where you go to disappear off Earth for a while. I think we've all felt the need every once in a while. This is the Conservatorium, which is a property in a historical building in Amsterdam, right smack in the museum, the centers of the city where the museums are. So very, very fancy place. And finally, to show you how a chain uses us, this is the Hard Rock Hotel in New York, which is one of our best customers. Once I've gone through these 3 properties and show you how they use us, I will jump into the dashboard to show you a little bit about, the guts of the machine, so to speak, what you can do with it, how do you control it, what do you shoot, what do you do. And yeah, at the end of all of this, as Gavin mentioned, we will take some questions and answers. Right, so first things first, the bot initially will go on your website. This is the first place where you set it up. But at least in our case, when that is done, when the initial setup on the website is done, you can connect it, as I mentioned, to other social media platforms. In our case, it's Instagram, Google, and Facebook. We can also connect to WhatsApp for an additional fee, but that's something to be discussed at a later date. It's mostly because WhatsApp charges us an additional fee for doing that connection. And of course, on the website itself, you can set up the bot however you want. Like here is in the Europe is a traditional kind of generic avatar. In the conservatorium, you see that they have put a message here to attract attention to the bot. And I'm using the hotel logo as the bot's avatar. And here in the Hard Rock, I find it particularly funny. They have a very, very, very minimalistic bot here with just a chat bubble and the message warning. Obviously, when you are using the bot through one of the alternative platforms, like for example, Facebook or Instagram, the bot will look different because it's going through the messaging service of those platforms, and we obviously have no control over the graphical interface in those platforms. But in contents and in usage, it's exactly the same. The information you set up for the bot once will be used across all platforms, and you only have to set it up once. So it's not as complicated as it may seem at first. When you open the bot, of course, all of this, you're going to get like generic message with, generic message, a customized message, because you can actually customize this however you want. And all of this is white label. So as mentioned, you can change it to look whatever you want with different avatar, different message. The buttons themselves also are customizable. There is nothing high-tech or AI or language model about this, but they are extremely useful. We find that 50% of travelers actually are satisfied with the answers in these buttons, always provided that you have recognized which are the customer's more typical questions and you have set them there. Furthermore, the bot can speak multiple languages. Ours in particular can speak up to 30 different languages. Though you can have set up up to 6, sorry. You can have to set up to 6 languages on the bot at any given time. And one small caveat, and this is where we're starting here with the subject of reliability that at least we use, you will have to feed the information in multiple languages to the bot. The reason for this is, while automated translation has advanced leaps and bounds in the last few years, it's still not there, at least on a corporate setting or at least on an enterprise setting. If you are regular users of Google Translate, for example, you will know that while small phrases and certain things can translate pretty well in most languages, idioms or peculiar turns of phrase or certain words still struggles, and it can look very weird and it can quickly turn into gibberish if you are not careful. So again, on a subject of reliability, this is not supposed to do everything on its own. If you want the bot to speak or have certain information, you do need to give it that information in those languages that you want it to speak. But it is not hard at all. I'll show you later in a minute how you add the information into the bot. If the bot does have a language integrated, because you have added that information to it, it will detect automatically the language of the customer based on their system settings, not their IP. So for example, because I have my system in English, because I normally work in English with Northern Europe and the States, I don't, like all of my system is in English, even though I'm Spanish. So if I were to go to Germany, for example, and take my laptop with me and connect to a German hotel that has a bot in English, the bot will speak to me in English, because all of my setup is in English. If I were to do that with my phone that is in Spanish, and that bot spoke Spanish, then it will speak to me in Spanish, and so on and so forth. Though, of course, you can just change language here if you want. In the event that someone connects with a language that the bot does not recognize, it will default to whichever default language you have chosen for the bot. I imagine that for most of us in this room right now, it will be English. Cool. As mentioned before, whatever you put in these buttons is up to you. You can configure them however you want. So for example, here, I click on location in the Europe, gives me like a block of text with the address for the property and some further links for more information. But for example, if I do it in the conservatorium, it will straight up just give me the address and a link to Google. And then is when it will give me further information if I wanted to. It's like, hey, how are you coming? And if I see airplane, for example, it will give me some potential prices for taxis. At the end of every question, the bot will always answer, hey, will always ask, hey, did I answer your question? If you say no, we will offer to connect with a human. By default, that's done by email, but you can set up different methods also. So this is not by all means the only answer, the only potential option. Now, as I mentioned before, nothing AI or language model about it, still extremely useful. Half of the customers that come through your website and check the bot will be satisfied with the answers that they get through this button, just as long as you have, set up those buttons properly. But of course, the fun thing about this and the interesting thing about it is that it understands natural language. I can talk with it. There are two ways you can set up the bot. Well, there's multiple layers for the model, and Rodrigo, for example, our CEO or one of our tech people could potentially give you a much in-depth explanation of this. But in essence, speaking plainly, there are two ways you can set up the bot to answer questions. On the first way, you basically tell it, hey, old-fashioned way, if you detect people speaking about these keywords or these kinds of phrases or these topics, give them this information. And the bot will always give out the same information. This is particularly useful for rules, policies, that sort of thing. The kind of information that you want the customer to always get correct. And you don't want the bot to generate its own answers and potentially leave anything left unsaid. You want it always to say the same thing. Potential example here in the conservatorium. If I ask it, can I bring my dog? It will give me the pet policy for the property because this is how it's been set up. And no matter what pet question I ask it, it's gonna always give me the pet policy because that's how it's been set up. However, it can also answer based on information you have provided it about the properties, amenities, its area, whatever it is, just by basically adding into its database. So, in the case of the Hard Rock, I know they have a gym. I'm certain they have a gym because I've checked their website before, but it's not clearly visible immediately. Like I don't see it immediately where I would look for the gym. And if I open their chatbot is not in their prearranged questions. So I'm gonna ask the chatbot, and I'm actually gonna make it especially difficult for him. Apologies, I have a very dry throat from a nasty cold. I'm gonna make it difficult for the bot by asking it two questions at once. Like, hey, can I check in at 8 p.m. and go to the gym? Apologies about my slow internet. There you go. See? So because the bot has that information on file, it can just create its own answer for the customer. Say, hey, yeah, you can check in at 8 p.m. Reception is 24/7. And then access the 24/7 fitness center and with some marketing jargon extra there. Cool. And giving the bot this information is as easy as copy pasting. When I go into the dashboard, I will show you, but that's basically the gist of it. You literally just tell it, hey, I want to teach you about this, give it the information with a nice copy paste, done. And finally, I think the most interesting thing you can do with the bot, because at the end of the day, I am a salesperson. I imagine many of you are also interested in revenue, is it can take reservations as mentioned before. And because the bot is also potentially in your social media platforms, it can also take reservations there. Now, of course, it can just click on reservations and the bot will take me through the different flow that you have set up to take that reservation. But again, I can just talk with it. So I can just ask it, hey, do you have a room for the weekend? Now, what the bot is going to do is it's going to speak with the properties booking engine to get the appropriate availability and prices. Usually in your cases, it would be ResNexus, with whom we have thankfully developed a very, very nice partnership that I'm very happy with. And in this particular case, see, because I'm talking about the weekend, it's already pre-selecting the dates for the weekend without me saying anything, without me choosing them in the calendar. Again, apologies about my slow internet. You would think that in London we have turbo fast internet, but no, I think still probably being carried along by steam train in lead pipes under the tube. So now it's searching with the booking engine talking with it back and forth to try and find that information. There we go. So here we have directly from the booking engine. So this is real availability on the property, the types of rooms that are available, and the price that they're offering those rooms for. And if I click on book now, it will take me to the booking engine with those details already pre-selected. But you, for example, could give the bot a specific code, a discount code, so it always uses the same discount code in the booking engine. That's another way you could also track the bot, any bookings that come through the bot, but there is a more efficient way that I'll not show you in a minute. But this way, you can also make sure that, for example, the bot always gets a competitive price compared to anyone else. And you can put it in anywhere in the website, say, hey, if you book through our bot, you're going to get 10% off. Cool. Normally, and in the benefit of time, I'm going to move into the dashboard now. But later, when we do the question and answer section, if you have any other questions about the customer side of the bot, more than happy to answer it for all of you. Cool. Right. So moving from what the customer does and sees on the bot into what you see and do with the bot. So first off, you have the dashboard here. I'm going to close this down and show you. See, for example, you see this is the stats for all of our hotels in the system. So here, for example, see, the famous billion messages that our CEO is extremely happy about, as he should be. The price quotes that we've done and all such. And this is the kind of information you can expect to get from the bot. Number of chats per hour, how many human service requests have been done, what is the volume period, like, when are people talking mostly with the bot? Seems that, for example, worldwide, most people are talking with the bot between 8 and 12 in the morning. For example, we can see here that Mondays is the busiest day for the bot, and also the busiest day for business hours. But for example, Sundays, we get a lot of traffic through the bot outside business hours in many properties of people making queries. And you can see here, for example, that overall in the whole platform, the difference between business hours and out of business hours queries to the bot is minimal. Like, they are basically 50-50. So it's very good to have that bot there, as mentioned, to be covering those out of business hours questions. And again, it will also tell you, of course, as I was mentioning before, hey, where are all of these communications coming from? Facebook, mobile, WhatsApp, Instagram, Google, etc. And of course, comparing how many chats are you having through the bot, because you can also have manual chats through the bot, as I will show you in a minute. How many of those are happening by the bot and how many are happening by human? As you can see, the human requests to the bot don't come even close to the amount of conversation that the bot is doing. So, to show you some examples, I'm going to show you the dashboard of a series of our customers. The data that will be shown here about these customers for privacy reasons is not 100% accurate, but it is a range. So basically, every time I open the Lowry here, because this is a sales platform and I go into sales and demand, I see a slightly different number here, but I am always seeing, like, numbers in the 3000s, numbers in the 600 here, numbers here in between the 100 and 200, so on and so forth. So these are credible numbers, if not exactly the ones they're having right now, again, for their privacy. So you can see here, for example, that the Lowry, which is a lovely hotel in Manchester, the National Theatre, in the last quarter, they got around these 3,500 chats, or maybe around 4,000, depending on how the platform is feeling any given day with the wiggling that it does. It's made almost 700 price quotes. It's made almost 200 book now. Basically, people clicking actually on the book now button on the application, on the chatbot. And as I was mentioning before, aside from doing the trick with the discount code with the chatbot, you can also install a pixel on the booking engine that will track confirmed bookings through the chat. And that way, you will always know how much money you are making through the chatbot itself, or rather, what percentage of those bookings that you're making through the booking engine are coming through the chatbot, and it justifies its existence very well. And as you can see, I mean, they are a rarity in the sense that they are really above average with conversion rates. But we are seeing conversion rates through the chatbot with our customers between 3% to 15%. Comparatively to a regular website or a regular booking engine that has conversion rates of about 1 to 2%, the difference is substantial. The bot can also take group bookings, but again, because of limitations that language models have, we do not let it negotiate this group bookings. It's too risky as the technology is right now. So the bot will just, if anybody asks about a group booking or gives any indication that they are interested in a group booking, the bot will just offer to take their details and send all of the relevant information to a reservations agent so they can come back with a proper quote. Most people actually expect that for group quotes, so it's not a big deal. And from my understanding, our customers are generally quite happy with this arrangement. But again, if the language model gets good enough that this can be automated, we'll go ahead and do so. But again, we try to work with things being reliable. And speaking about reliability and teaching the bot itself, here in artificial intelligence, you can see how the bot is doing from a language perspective and from a satisfaction perspective. So for example, here the assertiveness rate is effectively how happy are customers with the bot. And this is including the buttons. So including the prearranged buttons, most customers are happy with the bot. Nobody's saying, no, I don't like the answer you've given me. And for those people that are just talking with the bot, that they're not using the buttons and are using this language model, in this property, the bot is understanding about 78% of the time, which is pretty good. It could be a lot better. But actually, one of the reasons I like using the Lowry is that they have such good conversion rate and the bot works so well for them that they actually haven't bothered in customizing it very much. This understanding rate for them could be way higher. But they decided against it because what a great effect the bot was having on its own. They, for example, only have like 3 additional teachings on their bot. I've seen customers that have like 20, 50, 60. There's really no limit. We don't charge. We don't put any limit on any teachings that you want to give it. So the more you teach it, the better it's going to be, the more understanding it's going to be. But again, like compare that 74% understanding rate with the massive conversion rate that they're getting. Cool. The bot will on its own make suggestions sometimes. Like for example, here in the Lowry, when they first started, it recognized that lots of people were speaking about the spa and were asking it questions about the spa. And it's a bit of a topical thing, but they were asking it about tea time. This is Britain after all. And you remember that I mentioned that you could show the bot how to answer questions in 2 different ways. In this particular way, in the spa, for example, they went a very simple way and they said, hey, they went with keywords and phrases. If anyone talks about spa, wellness, health center, retreat, anything of the sort, just give them the link to the spa. That's what the property has decided that the bot should do. Fair enough. The bot will, of course, keep track of every conversation that is had that it didn't understand, or rather every phrase that it didn't understand. Most of it is going to be gibberish, people that didn't quite type well what they were asking, or they may just have a question or have an answer. But every once in a while, you might find something that it's worth turning into a query. Like for example, here, what menu is Sunday evening? So if you want the customer and think, hey, that'd be nice if they have an access to the menu. Let's see what we have. And you could come here and with a couple of clicks, add it as a training. So in the future, if someone asks that question again, the bot knows what to say when someone is asking it about the Sunday menu. It could be a link to the restaurant. It could be simply saying it's like, oh, it changed every day. Or maybe if it's, I don't know, Sunday roast, which is very typical in Britain. Let's say our Sunday menu always includes a Sunday roast, plus check this link to see what extra it has. You can, as mentioned, also further teach the bot by using the integration we have with ChatGPT. In layman's terms, it's an integration. We actually use a fork of ChatGPT. We don't use the full suite of ChatGPT because that will be prohibitive in computational costs. And also, we don't really need everything that it does. So we just integrated some of its code with ours to give it additional functionality. But the biggest benefit it has is that, as mentioned before, now I can just teach the bot by just giving it information in general, and the bot will generate its own answers. This is a test bot that we made for a hotel in Venice. And as an example, I created a test here where, hey, I'm teaching you about Venice. I literally just copy-pasted information from Wikipedia. Nothing fancy, nothing complicated, no code, no keywords, just literally, I'm teaching you about Venice. This is the information in natural language. You do have to add that information in all languages that you want the bot to speak, but once it's done, You just save it. And now if I turn on this test bot, because I've added it, some generic Wikipedia information about Venice, it should be able to answer some tourism information, some tourist questions about the city. So for example, I could ask it, what is there to see in Venice? Okay, there we go. See? Observers history, standing architecture. You can see St. Mark's Square, the Venetian Lagoon, blah, blah. And it's a generated answer, so every time will be slightly different, but obviously giving similar information. And you can use this as mentioned too. As you saw in the Hard Rock, for example, just give the bot information about the amenities of the hotel, so the bot can just answer those questions for the customer outright without having to bother the staff in the hotel. And now, moving to the live chats. So as I mentioned before, one other key fundamental point of our platform and the industry in general is that everything is moving towards an omni-channel effectively. And you have to try and connect as many places as possible into the same dashboard, because people will come from different directions, and having our attention split in multiple websites, multiple chats, multiple messaging apps, it's potentially leaving revenue on the table, and it's again making us lose time that a machine such as this can help us regain. This is the live chats for the Best Western Jacobich, which is a massive beach resort in Costa Rica. They have thousands of rooms. So it's a very good example for me because they're constantly getting hammered with messages from all directions. And you can see here in this dashboard, for example, where all the messages are coming from. So you see it's coming from WhatsApp, from Facebook, from the website. You can create your own system of tags. So for example, here we see someone of the website asked for a price quote, but the request was unavailable. Let's see for another one. There we go. This is a good one. So here in, for example, this one came through WhatsApp. Someone called Priscilla in Spanish. They asked for a price quote, but the request was unavailable. So now, if I was part of the staff in Jacobich, I could just come here, turn off the bot, stop with this person normal, and say, hey, Priscilla, I see that you were trying to book yesterday and couldn't for whatever reason. Can I help you with that? Do you want an offer? Are you looking for availability at a different date? And potentially try to rescue a lead that otherwise you would have lost. You can have this separated by different agents. We don't put any limits on the amount of agents that can use our dashboard. This dashboard itself is adapted for, let me see if I can actually do it while also sharing my screen with you all. There we go. It's also mobile friendly, so you can also do this in the go. If some of you, for example, do it while on the move. And it is in general a very powerful tool. Originally, this was not the main focus for our platform, but more and more we are developing, putting resources into it, and our customers are extremely happy with its results. Because of, I think its usefulness is self-evident in this particular case. And finally, before I open up for questions, we're doing very good time. We have still 20 minutes to go. Just as a little mention at the end, we only really charge extra for WhatsApp. That is really the only plugin that we charge additional for. We are working on some additional products that could be compatible with this and will be an additional feature, but it will not be the main bot itself. But as it is right now, all of our plugins, all of our integrations, they are all for free. So for example, you could have some very useful plugins like booking prices comparison. So for example, if a customer comes to the chatbot, ask it for a price, and you have this installed, the chatbot will check with Booking and will see, hey, the price I'm going to give you is 10% cheaper than Booking. So even if you don't book with me right now, stay with me because you're going to get a better price. And thus potentially save you some reservations from going through an OTA that will, of course, take a chunk of whatever profit you make from that room. Of course, connections for your restaurant, your spa, events, day use, so the past customer can get direct information from those pages. And We also connect with a platform called Zapier. That is like they work like as a generic bridge for other platforms. I believe they charge for this feature. But if you have a tool of some kind or a program of some kind that connect with Zapier, we also connect with Zapier. So potentially through that, both of our platforms could talk together. Cool. And I think we are covered when it comes to the demo itself. Gavin, if you may.
Yes, thank you. Wonderful, wonderful demo. Thanks for going over all of that.
Thanks for you for listening to me jabber on for 40 minutes.
No, it was fantastic. All right. So everyone can start putting questions in with the Q&A function at this time. While those begin to come in, I'm going to just quickly say a few things. Let's see, let me go ahead and share. There we go.
Cool.
And that is, you can see that all right, right?
Yep.
All right. If you enjoyed this webinar and want to view any of our past ones, you can do so at resnexus.com. And under the Education tab, there's a Webinars button, which will take you to our entire library of past webinars. You can also register for upcoming webinars on this page as well. And that's pretty much all the business I had. So we're going to go ahead and move on to the Q&A. I'll actually let you share once more, so you can go ahead and have that slide up there so people know how to get started. So I'll go ahead and pass it back
Amazing.
to you.
Thank you very much. There you go. I think I'm doing this correctly, and I'm not showing anything reprehensible on the screen.
No, looks good on my end. All right, and while we're waiting for just a little bit, I actually had a few questions of my own, if that's all right.
Fire away.
Fantastic. Um, so, let's say I manage a property and I want to get integrated with this chatbot. Roughly how long would you say it would take uh, from start to finish to get set up with it?
Obviously, the time is variable. On average, it tends to take about 2 weeks. The biggest component is if we know the booking engine before or not, and how quick the property itself does their homework, so to speak, of giving the information to the bot to start. If we have a booking engine that we already work with, like you guys, then the setup is smooth as butter, and we just go. It just basically can be set up in a couple of days. If it's a booking engine that we don't know, we can of course do it too, but it will take a couple of weeks at minimum to do that connection. For reference, for example, not long ago, I signed up a lovely property in Cambridge here in the UK. They signed up on a Thursday, and by Friday the next week, they were already online. So it is potentially very quick.
Awesome. And I also imagine that, the process of continuing to add more learnings and everything like that could go on for much longer, but that's sort of a as it comes kind of process.
Yeah, that's more of a live feature than anything else, because obviously each property is going to be different. They are going to get different questions. So you inevitably start by filling out, the more generic information like location, times, check-ins, prices, that sort of thing. And once all of that is covered, then of course you need to pay attention to what the bot is doing or what people are asking, and add answers to those questions come as they go, or preemptively think, hey, I know because I've been in this property for a while that they're always asking me about this thing. Let's add it to the bot.
Yeah, what a
Let me know we
fantastic
have a
feature to be
question.
able to provide those buttons as they come up.
Indeed.
We have a question that came in. Does Ask Suite charge a fee when guests book through the chat messenger?
No, we don't charge commission. We charge a flat fee. The flat fee is dependent on, well, multiple things, but to keep it brief in this call, the biggest components are number of rooms and price per night. And while our contracts are traditionally for a year, we do offer a cancellation, penalty-free cancellation, just as long as you give us 30 days notice. We believe in our product. We know it's good. Like in my time in the company, I've had one cancellation, and it was not, we don't like it. It's, we've done this too soon. We'll come back next year. So we are not particularly afraid of people canceling with us.
All right, fantastic. Let's see, another one came in. Let me see. Is it possible to utilize the chatbot within the ResNexus messaging in the property management software?
Not as of now. We normally do not connect with PMSs. The reason for this is that it is quite complex and it takes a lot of time. And most of the information the bot already needs is in the booking engine, which is much easier to use. Of course, if, for example, ResNexus wanted to work with us for an integration into the PMS directly, it's something that can be discussed, and we'll use this app to get our teams together and so they can get their heads together. But normally, no, it will go directly through the dashboard for us.
Hey, great to know. I had another one, another question. I'm just curious, what future developments do you see happening for automated chatbots? And is there any other kind of functionality that you think we can maybe start to look forward to in the future?
Uh, Come again, you cut off there for a small second.
Oh, sorry. I'm just asking if you have any ideas of like what are some future developments that we might see in automated chatbots?
I mean, it's not out yet, but watch this space because I'm sure it will come out soon. And I know my CEO, if he's listening, is very excited about it. But we know that many of our customers do not have a CRM because they are not, their operations do not require it, or they are not big enough to justify the cost. So we are going to create a extra product, so to speak, that will plug in with the chatbot. We are going to call it as Suite Flow. And the purpose of it is effectively doing follow-up, marketing follow-up on those chat conversations. So for example, if someone books, so you can send them like a welcome message with booking confirmations and that sort of thing, which you normally would do through the CRM and perhaps through an email, but this will allow you to do this through the chatbot itself, using data that has already been captured with those people that have been talking through you. But that will be a plugin that will be paid for, and I still don't have an exact date on when it's coming out. It's currently in beta.
So, well, that's great to know. Looks like we don't have any more questions for the time being. So I'll just want to say just one quick thing is I really appreciate how you talked about how the importance of AI and humans working together. And then you demonstrated that with showing how, that it's a chatbot and it's able to respond to people, but also it relies a lot on you, the property manager, to kind of, give it the information it needs and teach it, and provide, pre-written responses for buttons. So I just think that's just demonstrated very well. So I just wanted to commend you on that, I guess.
Thank you. It is a big pet peeve of mine because obviously we have, like, Assuit as the company has lots of experience in the sector. As I say, we've been doing this for 6 years now. And when we had the AI explosion from last year, there is a lot of smoke right now. There's a lot of hype. There's a lot of people that are making and creating companies right away without really understanding the technology or what can I do and what it is limitations. So I really want to caution people out there. There are, well, aside from us in this particular business, there are in other related industries, people that have been working with it for a while, that have the experience, and you can probably trust to. I mean, you can definitely trust us, but of course, I'm going to say that because I'm a salesperson. But there are companies out there that have the experience, and you can definitely trust with, the proper management of this technology. But be wary of someone that is, the old adage that every grandmother tells you: if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. That's why I don't shy away from telling you the limitations about our platform, because I know the limitations exist, and if someone is not telling you about them, then probably they have something to hide.
All right, fantastic. It looks like we have probably come to the end of our questions for today, but that said, we've had some pretty good attendance. So thanks everybody for showing up. And then if they want to get started, the best way is to reach out to you at that email address at the bottom. Is that correct?
Yeah, just shoot me an email, and I'll be more than happy to do a particular demo for you guys, or make you a quote, or answer any other questions that you have.
All right,
And if I can't answer them, I'll put you in contact with someone that does.
of course. All right. Any final thoughts before we end up for today, Jose?
Can't think of anything. Very excited to work with you guys. The partnership with Recognize sounds to be fantastic. So if you folks are looking for a PMS and a booking engine, definitely go with these guys. And yeah, thank you so very much for coming, everyone.
Yeah, thank you. All right. Have a great rest of your day, everybody. See ya.
Have a good one. See you, everyone.